I was forced to fund my golden brother's lazy lifestyle for years, until I cut them off, and now my spoiled mom begs me for help after he landed in jail. I'm a 28-year-old male. I grew up in a middle-class family in Ohio. My dad, Robert, worked in construction, earning around $48,000 a year. My mom, Sandra, was a stay-at-home mom who spent more time on Facebook than actually taking care of anything. My older brother, Tyler, who is 6 years older than me, has been the golden child since day one. I'm not talking about normal sibling rivalry here. I'm talking about straight-up different treatment, like we were from different species. Tyler got a PlayStation 2 when it first came out for $320. I got a broken Game Boy Color that Tyler threw down the stairs. Tyler got brand new Nike shoes every school year. I got his old beat-up sneakers with holes in them that I had to stuff with newspaper. The bedroom situation was the worst, though. Tyler had this massive room in the front of the house with 2 windows, a walk-in closet, and enough space for all his stuff. I got the tiny room next to the bathroom that used to be a storage closet. I'm not even kidding, there were still shelves screwed into the walls when I moved in there. My bed was an ancient twin mattress that felt like sleeping on concrete. When I asked my parents why Tyler got the better room, my dad just shrugged and said, "He's older, he needs more space." My mom, Sandra, would roll her eyes and say, "Stop being jealous, Finn, not everything has to be equal." But here's the thing that really got me. It wasn't just about the stuff. Tyler could do no wrong in their eyes. He failed 3 classes in his sophomore year. He's just bored. School isn't challenging enough. He got caught smoking behind the gym. Boys will be boys, at least he's not doing hard drugs. Meanwhile, if I forgot to take out the trash one time, I'd get a lecture about responsibility. The worst part was watching my mom, Sandra, kiss Tyler's behind constantly. She'd make his favorite meals, do his laundry, and even clean his room for him. The woman treated him like he was some kind of prince. Looking back now, I realize she was basically training him to expect women to serve him hand and foot. Real healthy, right? My dad, Robert, was just as bad, but in a different way. He'd work long hours in construction, come home exhausted, and just go along with whatever Sandra said. He never stood up for me or questioned why everything revolved around Tyler. I think he was just too tired to fight it. The one bright spot in my teenage years was meeting my buddy Jake in my freshman year of high school. This dude was hilarious and had zero filter, exactly what I needed in my life. Jake came from a normal family where both parents worked, and all the kids had to pull their weight. When he first came over to my house and saw how Tyler was treated, he was shocked. "Bro, your brother is 20 years old, and your mom is still cutting his food for him," Jake said one day after dinner. "That's not normal, dude. My mom would have kicked my butt out the door by now if I acted like that." Jake became my reality check. He'd point out all the ridiculous stuff my family did that I thought was normal. Like when Tyler got a brand new mountain bike for his birthday, and I got a $10 gift card to Subway. Jake was like, "Dude, that's some serious garbage right there. Your parents are straight up playing favorites." The funny thing about Jake is he had this way of making jokes that cut right to the truth. He started calling Tyler His Royal Highness and my mom the Royal Butt Kisser. My dad, he called the ATM because all he did was work and hand over money to Sandra to spend on Tyler. "Finn, you're living in a monarchy where you're the peasant," Jake told me one day. "Your brother is the prince, your mom is the queen, and your dad is just the guy who pays for everything." Jake was also the one who opened my eyes to how messed up my mom really was. She was obsessed with appearances and status symbols. She'd brag to the neighbors about Tyler's achievements, like graduating high school with a 2.3 GPA, while never mentioning anything I did. When I made the honor roll, she didn't even put it on Facebook. But when Tyler got a part-time job at GameStop that he quit after 2 weeks, she posted about it like he'd won the Nobel Prize. "Your mom's a gold digger who married your dad for his paycheck," Jake said bluntly. "And now she's raising Tyler to be just like her, entitled and lazy." Jake would come over just to watch the circus that was my family dynamics. He'd sit there eating dinner with us, watching Sandra serve Tyler like he was royalty while I had to get my own food, and just shake his head in disbelief. "This is like watching a nature documentary about dysfunction," he'd tell me later. "Your family operates on a completely different set of rules than normal people." After high school, I got a job at an automotive repair shop as a mechanic's assistant. The pay started at $13 an hour, which wasn't much, but I was learning a trade and working with my hands. I actually enjoyed it. There's something satisfying about fixing things that are broken. Plus, the guys at the shop treated me with more respect than my own family ever did. My manager, an old-school mechanic who'd been working on cars for 30 years, took me under his wing. He taught me everything from basic oil changes to complex transmission work. "Finn," he'd tell me, "you've got good hands for this work. Keep at it and you'll make decent money." It was the first time in my life an adult had said something genuinely encouraging about my abilities. Tyler, meanwhile, was 24 and still living at home doing absolutely nothing. His daily routine was like clockwork: sleep until 2 in the afternoon, stumble downstairs in his underwear, eat whatever Sandra had made for him, then plant himself on the couch for 8 hours of video games. After dinner, which Sandra would literally bring to him on the couch, he'd shower and go out with his friends until 3 in the morning. Rinse and repeat. My parents just let it happen. Sandra would make excuses to anyone who asked about Tyler's job situation. He's exploring his options, she'd say. Or, he's waiting for the right opportunity. My Aunt Rosa once asked Tyler directly at a family barbecue what his plans were, and he just shrugged and said, "I'm taking time to figure out my passion." The dude was 24 years old, and talking about finding his passion like he was some kind of spiritual guru. Jake was there for that conversation and nearly choked on his soda laughing. Later, he told me, "Your brother's passion is being a professional mooch. He's already mastered that." That's when Sandra started hitting me up for money. It started small and reasonable. "Finn, can you contribute $200 a month for groceries since you're eating here?" Fair enough, I thought. I was living at home and eating their food. Then it became $350 for household expenses. Then $550, because money is tight. Each increase came with a sob story about rising costs and how hard it was to make ends meet. But here's the thing that really got me. The expenses only seemed to go up when Tyler wanted something. New gaming console? Suddenly, the electric bill was higher, and they needed more money. Tyler wanted to join a gym? Whoops, the car insurance went up, and could I cover the difference? It was like Sandra had this magical ability to find new expenses every time Tyler had a new want. By the time I was 21, I was handing over $850 out of my $1,500 monthly paycheck to my parents. I was paying for groceries, utilities, car insurance for Tyler's car that he crashed twice because he was texting while driving, and even the premium cable package so Tyler could watch sports. Meanwhile, Tyler contributed exactly $0 to the household. Jake was watching all this happen and getting more upset each month. "Dude, you're basically Tyler's sugar daddy at this point," he said. "You're paying for his entire lifestyle while he sits on his behind playing Call of Duty. Do you realize your brother has never had a real job? Like ever." He was right. Tyler had worked exactly 2 weeks at a movie theater when he was 16, and he quit because he didn't like the uniform. That was it, his entire work history. The breaking point for Jake came when he found out Tyler had gotten a credit card in my dad's name and racked up $30,200 in debt buying stupid stuff online, gaming equipment, expensive headphones, clothes he never wore, random electronics, just impulse purchases because he was bored. The credit card company had been calling my dad for weeks before he finally figured out what happened. Instead of making Tyler pay it back or face consequences, Sandra asked me to help out with the credit card bill. "Are you insane?" Jake exploded when I told him. "Tyler commits credit card fraud and you have to pay it back? Finn, your family is straight up robbing you." But I was so used to it by then that it seemed normal. Jake started calling our apartment, where we'd moved in together by then, Finn's ATM, because every month I'd get cleaned out by my family's emergencies. The worst part was how Sandra would frame these requests. She'd never just ask for money. She'd make it seem like I was being selfish if I didn't contribute. "Finn, we're a family. Families help each other out. You don't want to see your brother struggle, do you?" Or she'd get all emotional. "I raised you boys to take care of each other. Don't you love your brother?" Struggle with what? He was living rent-free, bill-free, and responsibility-free while I worked 50 hours a week. And love my brother? What was there to love? The guy who never said thank you, never acknowledged that I was paying for his lifestyle, and treated me like I was his personal bank account. I remember one particularly annoying conversation where Sandra tried to explain Tyler's situation to me. "Finn, you have to understand, Tyler is creative. Creative people can't just work any old job. They need to find their calling. You're more practical. You're good at fixing things, working with your hands. Tyler needs time to discover his artistic side." His artistic side? The guy's only creative accomplishment was making really elaborate excuses for why he couldn't get a job. "I'm too qualified for entry-level positions, but I don't have enough experience for higher-level ones." Or, my personal favorite, "I'm waiting for a job that matches my energy and vibe." Jake heard this explanation and just stared at Sandra like she'd grown a second head. "Lady, your son is 25 years old. At some point, creative people still have to pay bills." When I was 24, I got promoted to lead mechanic and started making $24 an hour. Good money for someone without a college degree. But instead of being happy for me, Sandra saw dollar signs. "Finn, now that you're making more money, we need you to contribute more to the household," she said the day after I told them about my promotion. Not congratulations, not we're proud of you, just immediately asking for more cash. She wanted me to start paying $1,300 a month. That would have left me with maybe $450 for my own expenses after taxes. When I hesitated, Sandra went full psycho on me. "You're so selfish, Finn. We raised you, fed you, put a roof over your head, and this is how you repay us? Your brother needs support while he figures out his life path." His life path? Tyler was 30 years old and had never held a job for more than a month. Jake was there when Sandra came to our apartment to discuss my new financial contributions. She rolled up in Tyler's car, which I paid the insurance for, wearing a new designer purse and fake nails that probably cost $120. "Finn, honey," she said in this fake sweet voice, "family takes care of family. You don't want your poor brother to struggle, do you?" Jake couldn't help himself. Struggle with what? He's 30 and doesn't have a job. How is that Finn's problem? Sandra turned on him with a nasty look. "This is family business. You wouldn't understand. I understand that you're bleeding Finn dry to support your lazy son," Jake shot back. "That's not family. That's exploitation." Sandra's mask completely came off. Tyler has potential. He just needs time to find the right opportunity. Finn is good with his hands. Manual labor suits him. Tyler is meant for bigger things. That's when I realized Jake was right about her. She saw me as the dumb worker bee and Tyler as some kind of future CEO. In her mind, I was supposed to fund Tyler's lifestyle forever while he found himself. The conversation got heated, with Sandra listing all the ways Tyler was special and different, while basically calling me a blue-collar loser, whose only purpose was to financially support my brother's dreams. She actually said that some people are born to work, and others are born to lead, and that I should be grateful to have a purpose. "What exactly is Tyler leading?" Jake asked. "A guild in World of Warcraft?" Sandra got even madder. "Tyler is intellectually gifted. He's just waiting for the right opportunity to showcase his talents. Not everyone can be satisfied with getting their hands dirty for minimum wage." "It's not minimum wage," I said. "I make decent money." "Decent for what you do," Sandra replied with a condescending tone. "But Tyler has the potential to make real money, executive money. He just needs family support while he positions himself for success." Jake just sat there, taking notes on his phone. "This is gold," he whispered to me. "I'm documenting this crazy for posterity." What really got me was how Sandra talked about my job like it was beneath Tyler. I was good at what I did. I could diagnose engine problems that stumped other mechanics. I could rebuild a transmission from scratch. But in Sandra's mind, working with my hands made me less valuable than Tyler, who had literally never accomplished anything in his life. "You know what your problem is, Sandra?" Jake finally said. "You think Tyler's going to be your meal ticket. You're betting everything on him making it big someday so you can live in luxury. But newsflash, he's 30 years old, and his biggest accomplishment is reaching level 80 in some video game." "You don't know anything about my son's potential," Sandra snapped. "I know he's never held a job, never paid a bill, and never taken responsibility for anything," Jake replied. "That's not potential. That's learned helplessness." Sandra stood up to leave, but Jake wasn't done. "And another thing, Finn doesn't owe you or Tyler anything. He's been supporting your household for years, while Tyler contributes nothing. You should be thanking Finn, not demanding more money from him." "Finn knows his responsibilities to this family," Sandra said coldly. "What about Tyler's responsibilities?" Jake asked. "Or do those not exist?" Sandra didn't answer. She just left, slamming our apartment door so hard it rattled the windows. After she left, Jake and I sat there in silence for a minute. Then Jake said something that really hit me. "Dude, she doesn't see you as her son. She sees you as Tyler's employee. And Tyler doesn't see you as his brother. He sees you as his personal ATM. You're not family to them. You're just a resource to be exploited." That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about what Jake had said, and I realized he was right. Every interaction with my family was transactional. Sandra only called when she needed money. Tyler only talked to me when he wanted something. My dad only seemed to notice I existed when the bills needed paying. I started paying more attention to how my family treated me versus how they treated Tyler. When Tyler wanted something, it was a family discussion about how to make it happen. When I needed something, I was told to figure it out myself. Tyler's wants became family priorities. My needs were my own problem. The really messed up part was how Sandra would twist everything to make me feel guilty. She'd say things like, Family takes care of family, and we all have to sacrifice for each other. But somehow, Tyler never had to sacrifice anything. It was always me who had to give up stuff. Me who had to work extra hours, me who had to go without so Tyler could have what he wanted. Things got really bad when I was 26. Tyler had been dating this girl named Brittany, who was basically a female version of him, entitled, lazy, and expensive. Sandra loved her because she thought Brittany was sophisticated. She worked part-time at a nail salon and drove a BMW her daddy bought her. Brittany was everything Sandra thought she deserved in a daughter-in-law. She dressed well, spoke with this fake posh accent, and knew how to play the game. She'd compliment Sandra's cooking, ask about her day, and act like Tyler was this amazing catch. Sandra ate it up. Finally, Tyler found someone who appreciates his qualities. Sandra would gush to anyone who'd listen. Brittany sees his potential. What Brittany actually saw was a guy whose family would pay for everything. She never paid for dates, never contributed to gifts, never even offered to split a dinner check. Why would she? Tyler's family, meaning me, was covering everything. Tyler decided he wanted to propose to Brittany with a $4,500 engagement ring. Not just any ring. It had to be from this fancy jewelry store downtown because Brittany had mentioned she only wore quality pieces. Of course, Tyler had exactly $0 saved for this purchase. Guess who Sandra thought should pay for it? Finn. This is so important for Tyler's future, Sandra said when she pitched me the idea. Brittany comes from a good family. This could really help Tyler network and find a good job. I stared at her. How is buying his girlfriend a ring going to get Tyler a job? Her father owns several businesses, she replied. If Tyler marries into that family, he'll have connections. This ring is an investment in Tyler's future. Let me get this straight. I was supposed to spend $4,500 of my hard-earned money so Tyler could propose to a girl whose dad might give him a job. This was Sandra's business plan. I told her there was no way I was paying for Tyler's engagement ring. That's when Sandra showed me exactly what kind of person she really was. Fine, be selfish, she hissed, but don't come crying to us when you're old and alone with no family. Tyler will remember who supported him, and Brittany will too. You're ruining your relationship with your future sister-in-law over money. She actually tried to guilt-trip me by saying I was jealous of Tyler finding love and that I was sabotaging his happiness because I was single. I'm not sabotaging anything, I said. If Tyler wants to propose, he can get a job and save money like every other guy in the world. You don't understand, Sandra said, getting more agitated. Brittany expects a certain standard. She's used to nice things. If Tyler proposes with some cheap ring, it'll send the wrong message about our family. What message? That we're normal people who don't spend thousands of dollars we don't have on jewelry? Sandra looked at me like I'd said something deeply stupid. Finn, image matters. When you're trying to move up in the world, you have to look the part. Brittany's friends all have expensive engagement rings. Tyler can't look cheap next to them. Jake was with me when this happened, and he just started laughing. Lady, you want your son to get married, but you can't even pay for the ring? What kind of backwards family is this? Sandra got so mad she started screaming. Tyler deserves better than this. He deserves a family that supports his dreams. Finn, you make good money now, and you're just being greedy, keeping it all to yourself. Greedy? I shot back. I've been supporting this household for 5 years. I pay for Tyler's car insurance, his food, his entertainment, his everything. How am I greedy for not wanting to buy his engagement ring too? Because he's your brother, Sandra yelled. And this is important. This could change his whole life. His dreams of doing nothing while his little brother pays for everything? Jake asked. Wow, what an ambitious dream. That night, Jake and I were eating pizza, and he said something that changed everything. Finn, you know they're never going to stop, right? Next, it'll be Tyler's wedding, then a house down payment, then his kids' college funds. They're going to bleed you dry until you have nothing left. He was right. I was 26 years old with no savings, no car. I rode my motorcycle to work, and no future because every penny I made went to supporting Tyler's lifestyle. You know what you have to do, right? Jake said. Cut them off completely, go cold turkey. Let them figure out how to pay for Tyler's ring themselves. But I was scared. These people had trained me from childhood to believe that I owed them everything, that questioning their demands made me selfish and ungrateful. The thought of actually saying no to Sandra felt impossible. What if they're right? I asked Jake. What if I'm being selfish? Jake looked at me like I'd grown a second head. Dude, you've been paying their bills for 5 years while your 30-year-old brother sits on his butt. If that's selfish, then I'm the Pope. The final push came when Sandra showed up at the auto shop where I worked. She cornered me during my lunch break in front of my CO workers and started this whole scene about how I was abandoning my family and being cruel to my brother. "Finn, people are going to think our family doesn't support each other," she said loudly enough for everyone to hear. What kind of brother won't help with his siblings' engagement? My manager had to ask her to leave, and I was humiliated. My coworkers were looking at me like I was some kind of deadbeat who wouldn't help his own family. Sandra had made me look like the bad guy in front of people who respected me. That's when I knew I had to get out. That weekend, Jake and I drove 3 hours to a different city and found an apartment. I put in my 2 weeks' notice at the shop, found a job at a bigger auto repair place, and told my parents I was done. "Done with what?" Sandra asked when I broke the news. "Done paying for Tyler's life. Done being your ATM. Done being treated like my only value is how much money I can contribute to this family." Sandra's face went through about 5 different emotions: shock, anger, denial, then back to anger. "You can't do this, Finn. We depend on you. Tyler depends on you." "Then maybe Tyler should get a job," I said. "You know he can't just work anywhere. He has standards." "Yeah, well, so do I. And my standard is not paying for a grown man's engagement ring when he's never worked a day in his life." For the first few months after I left, my family tried everything to get me back. Sandra called, crying about how much they missed me. Translation, they missed my money. Robert called, saying I was abandoning my family and that real men take care of their responsibilities. The first call came 2 days after I moved out. Sandra was crying so hard I could barely understand her. "Finn, please come home. We can work this out. Tyler doesn't really need that expensive ring. We can find a cheaper one." "It's not about the ring, Sandra," I said. "It's about everything. I'm not coming back. But what about the bills? What about the mortgage, Finn? We can't afford everything without your help. Then Tyler needs to get a job. He's 30 years old. You know Tyler's not ready for that kind of pressure. He's sensitive. He needs support, not demands." Sensitive? The guy who screamed at video games for 6 hours a day was sensitive. But the best was Tyler. He actually had the nerve to call me and say, "Finn, this is really messing up my timeline. Brittany's expecting a proposal soon, and you're ruining everything." Jake was listening on speakerphone and burst out laughing. "Dude, get a job and buy your own ring." "I'm not built for regular jobs," Tyler said. "I'm more of an entrepreneur. I'm working on some business ideas." "What business ideas?" I asked. "Well, I'm thinking about maybe starting a YouTube channel or something, or maybe an online store. I just need some startup capital." "Startup capital for what?" "I don't know yet. I'm still in the research phase, but there's a lot of money to be made online if you know what you're doing." Jake and I were dying laughing. A 30-year-old man with no work experience was going to become a YouTube star to pay for an engagement ring. "Tyler, how long have you been researching these business ideas?" I asked. "Like 2 weeks. But I've been thinking about entrepreneurship for a while. I just need the right opportunity." 2 weeks of research consisted of watching YouTube videos about making money online and reading get-rich-quick articles. Tyler's business plan was basically step 1, start a business, step 2, profit. Meanwhile, without my $1,300 a month contribution, my parents' finances completely collapsed. They couldn't make their mortgage payments, the utilities got shut off twice, and Tyler's car got repossessed because they couldn't afford the payments. Sandra had to get a job for the first time in 15 years, working at Target for $12 an hour. She was furious about it and blamed me for forcing her to work. She actually posted on Facebook about how ungrateful children abandon their families, complete with crying emojis. The Facebook posts were honestly hilarious. Sandra would write dramatic things like, "Some children forget everything their parents sacrificed for them, and money changes people, even your own kids." Jake would screenshot them and send them to me with commentary. "Look at this one," he texted me. "A mother's heart breaks when her child chooses greed over family. Lady, your son is 30 and unemployed. Where's his family loyalty?" Tyler and Brittany broke up because he couldn't afford to take her anywhere or buy her the things she wanted. Apparently, she told him he was too old to be living with his parents without a job and dumped him for some guy who owned a car dealership. This breakup sent Tyler into a spiral. He called me crying, crying, about how I'd ruined his relationship. "Brittany left me because I couldn't afford the ring she wanted," he sobbed. "She said she couldn't see a future with someone who doesn't have their life together." "Tyler, you're 30 and you've never had a job," I said. "Your life isn't together." But I was working on it. I had plans. If you hadn't abandoned the family, I could have proposed and figured the rest out later. "Figured what out? How to pay for a wedding? How to support a wife? Were you planning to have kids and expect me to pay for them too?" Tyler went quiet for a minute. Then he said something that really showed how delusional he was. "I thought we were a family. I thought families helped each other achieve their dreams. What about my dreams, Tyler? When did anyone in this family care about what I wanted? That's different. You're good at working. You like your job. I like my job, but I also like having money left over to save for my own future. I like being able to buy things for myself sometimes. But this was Tyler's logic. Since I made decent money, I didn't need it at all. Whatever I didn't absolutely need should go to supporting his lifestyle. Jake and I followed all this drama through my dad, who would call me every few weeks to update me on the family situation. He wasn't asking for money. I think he was actually proud that I'd finally stood up for myself. He just wanted me to know what was happening. Your mother's having a real wake-up call, Robert told me one day. She's complaining about her feet hurting from standing all day at Target. And I told her, now you know how Finn felt working 50 hours a week to pay our bills. How's Tyler handling the real world, I asked. Not well, Robert said. He applied for a few jobs but keeps getting rejected. Turns out employers want people with work history and basic skills. He got frustrated after the third rejection and said job hunting was rigged against creative people. Tyler tried getting various jobs but couldn't keep any of them. He got fired from a fast food place for showing up late 3 times in his first week. He quit a warehouse job after one day because it was too physical, and the supervisor was mean to him. He got let go from a retail position for arguing with customers who didn't want to hear his opinions about their purchases. He's discovering that the real world doesn't care about his potential, my dad said. Turns out employers want people who actually work. The best story Robert told me was about Tyler's interview at a local office supply store. Tyler showed up 20 minutes late wearing jeans and a wrinkled t-shirt. When the manager asked about his work experience, Tyler said he was overqualified for entry-level positions but would consider working there temporarily while he pursued his entrepreneurial ventures. The manager asked what kind of entrepreneurial ventures, Robert said, and Tyler started explaining his YouTube channel idea. He spent 10 minutes talking about how he was going to make money playing video games online. The manager just stared at him. Tyler didn't get that job either. Meanwhile, Sandra was struggling with her new reality. She'd never had to work a real job and was discovering how hard it actually is. She'd come home from Target exhausted, complaining about customers, managers, and coworkers. She keeps saying how unfair everything is, Robert told me. How she shouldn't have to work at her age. How Tyler needs time to find himself. How you're being cruel by not helping the family. But I finally told her the truth. What truth? I asked. That she created this situation. She spoiled Tyler so much that he can't function as an adult. And she treated you so badly that you had every right to leave. I told her if she wanted someone to blame, she should look in the mirror. This was the first time in my life that Robert had ever criticized Sandra's parenting or admitted that their treatment of me was wrong. It felt good to hear, even though it was about 10 years too late. 2 years later, I was doing great. I'd gotten certified as a master mechanic and was making $68,000 a year. Jake and I had saved up enough to buy a house together as roommates and business partners. I was even dating this amazing woman named Ashley, who's a nurse. Life was good. That's when Sandra called me for the first time in months. But this wasn't a guilt trip call. This was a begging call. Finn, I know we had our differences, but we really need your help, she said. And I could hear desperation in her voice. Turns out Tyler had gotten arrested for trying to steal car parts from the shop where I used to work. He thought he could sell them online to make quick money. The idiot got caught on security cameras and was facing felony charges. He needs a good attorney, Finn. A decent one costs $18,000 just for the retainer. We don't have that kind of money. I put her on speakerphone so Jake could hear. He was making popcorn in the kitchen. Where's all that money you saved by not having to support me? I asked. Please, Finn. He's your brother. He made a mistake, but he doesn't deserve to go to prison. Actually, stealing car parts is exactly the kind of thing that deserves prison, Jake called out from the kitchen. Sandra started crying. Finn, I know I wasn't always fair to you. I know I favored Tyler, but please, we need your help. Tyler's learned his lesson. What lesson? I said. He's 32 years old and stealing car parts. That's not a mistake. That's who he is. Then she said the words I've been waiting my whole life to hear. You were right about Tyler. You were right about everything. I should have made him get a job years ago instead of babying him. Jake came in with his popcorn, grinning. Sandra, let me ask you something, I said. When I was working 50 hours a week to pay for Tyler's car insurance, did you think about fairness then? No answer. When I asked for help buying work boots and you said money was tight but then spent $600 on Tyler's video games that same week, did you think about fairness? Finn, please, she said. When you told me I was built for manual labor while Tyler was meant for bigger things, did you think about how that made me feel? She was sobbing now. I'm sorry, Finn. I'm so sorry. I was wrong about everything. Here's what's going to happen, I said. Tyler's going to go to jail because that's what happens when you steal things. You're going to keep working at Target because that's what adults do. And I'm going to keep living my life without any of you in it. But he's your brother, she cried. No, a brother doesn't let his sibling pay for his whole life while he does nothing. A brother doesn't steal from the place where his sibling used to work. Tyler's just some guy who lived in the same house as me.
Finn, what if I pay you back? What if I work extra shifts and send you money every month until I've paid back everything you gave us?
I almost laughed. Sandra, you make $12 an hour at Target. At that rate, it would take you about 15 years to pay me back. And that's if you gave me every penny you earned. I'll do it, she said. I'll work 2 jobs, 3 jobs if I have to. The time for making things right was years ago, not when Tyler finally got arrested. I hung up and blocked their numbers. Jake was cheering with his mouth full of popcorn. 6 months later, I heard through my dad that Tyler got sentenced to 2 years in prison. Sandra had to get a second job cleaning offices at night to pay for his court fees and still couldn't afford a good attorney. So Tyler got stuck with a public defender who barely tried. My dad also told me that Sandra finally understood what Jake and I had been saying all along. She created a monster by spoiling Tyler, and now she was paying the price. She cries every night, Robert told me. Not just about Tyler being in prison, but about losing you.